Live. Hey, Moxie, how are you tonight?
I'm pretty good. How are you doing? Feeling much better than I was last time.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm
That's good.
so much
We
better.
missed you.
I missed you guys.
Well, welcome everybody to Questions Worth Pondering. We don't have a specific question tonight. We actually have a ton of questions because there's a lot going on in the news. And so, what we're going to cover tonight is recent derailment and talk about how it's related to past ones. We're going to go over the intelligence leak that happened. We're going to talk about Dominion voting systems and how they're suing Fox. So there was breaking news today on that. And then we're going to talk about China police stations all over the country, but specifically one in New York. Elon did an interview yesterday. Part two is tonight, actually, and we won't be able to cover part two, but I think it's happening right now. So, and then we've got other things because other stuff happened throughout the day that we might talk about. So, with that, I think we'll start with the train derailments. I've got to get to my bookmarks here. So, recently there was a train derailment in Ohio. Was it in Ohio? The
The
latest
original
one?
one that we first started talking about?
Not the original one, but the latest. Oh, no, no, no. That was in Maine, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just going to quick pull up this news article. That's not the right one. No, Rockwood, Maine. Sorry. Rockwood, Maine. There was a recent train derailment. And before that one, we had one in East Palestine, which everybody's aware of, and that one had a chemical spill. But this one in Rockwood also had hazardous materials. There was a truck transporting hazardous materials from the East Palestine site that also dumped over. And in Springfield, Ohio, there was another train derailment. And so yeah, we just we want to kind of talk about this. I can show some of the clips and some more information, but before we do that, Moxie, what do you got on that?
It's just really weird. Why is all of this all of a sudden in the news? And my question, I guess, is why is there an uptick in hazardous materials for the train derailments? Because I mean, there's train derailments all the time. I used to live next to train tracks, and we had them not all that often, but it was something that I knew happened like on a kind of regular basis. But why is it all the hazardous materials at this point? And
Yeah, it's a good question. Anything else on the train derailments?
um I had something and it just went out my ear. So I'll kick it back to you and see if I can remember what was going on in my head.
Okay. Yeah, so there it's for me it's kind of interesting. So if I go back and look at East Palestine and what happened during that train derailment, there I'm actually going to go back to sharing my screen. So first we had the East Palestine train derailment, which had the big controlled burn, controlled explosion, and they told everybody in the town that it was safe. But we found out later that it wasn't. And that was in the news. 40,000 pounds of toxic material, and there were actually. Oh, this is too big. Let me go here. Oops. Um, Citizen Free Press. Here we go. So sorry, I have a lot of bookmarks. In
That's
Texas,
okay.
and there was a train carrying hazardous material in Texas, and then in at the same time, where there was another train derailment in South Carolina, um, also carrying hazardous material. But after the East Palestine one of the things is number one, they were blaming Trump. Go ahead, Moxie. I know you want to
That's
say
where
something
my
about that.
brain was going before when I lost it, but you just you jogged my memory. They were there was a what do you call it? There was something in place that Trump took away, like some sort of
Regulations. He did a lot of deregulation.
regulations.
Yep.
That people were complaining that it's Trump's fault that this happened and all of that. But under those regulations, I have a link somewhere. Those regulations wouldn't have even prevented this because that train wouldn't have been equipped with the brakes that were supposed to, or that people were saying were supposed to be on that train.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, but yeah, so yeah, they people were blaming Trump. It's so funny how whenever something happens, they go back to, well, Trump did this or Trump did that. There's never any accountability.
Never
Hey,
ever.
Carrie. Carrie's on YouTube. Is Rumble not working for you, Carrie?
Oh, she's also on Rumble.
Oh, are you on Rumble too? Uh, yeah. So there's an article here too from the Daily Caller. They were talking about the Biden administration blaming Trump, um, and then there was report saying that Ohio wasn't qualified for assistance from FEMA.
Yeah, that was really weird.
Yeah, but but here's what happened is um I posted this on Telegram just last week. FEMA says Ohio is ineligible for assistance. And this was I don't have the date on here, but this was back when this happened in Ohio. Then Trump announced he was going to visit East Palestine. And right after that, then FEMA suddenly stepped in and said, okay, yes, you qualify. Um,
And sorry, Trump did like wait 2.5 weeks before he announced he was going there too. So FEMA dragged their butts for 2.5 weeks before they decided to help them out.
yeah, and people needed help right away. So, and then Biden decided he wasn't going to go to East Palestine, which shocked me because it's like they were calling it a mini Chernobyl. Um, yeah, so my thoughts on that is I want to know what's going on with the hazardous materials. Uh, shoot, I meant to pull up my chart. So I have a chart. If I have time while I'm talking through this, uh, actually I do. So I'm just gonna save this and then open it. But basically, what the chart shows is that within ever since the 1970s, uh, the sorry, I'm trying to do this while I'm also talking. Um, so train derailments. I'm actually going to pull it up because I just saved it here. So here's the chart. So ever since 1970, they've tracked the number of train cars derailed. So the actual number of derailments has gone down. But what's interesting is since like the late 80s, mid to late 80s, the number of train derailments with hazardous materials has gone up. So I guess my question is Um, why are we transporting so much more hazardous material? You know, this is 2023. You would think we would have better ways of transporting that material. And why do we have more hazardous material? What is this stuff they're transporting? That's my question. You know?
Yeah, it's weird because you would think there would be a better, less hazardous way. Like, why aren't they doing more smaller vehicles like trucks pulling the stuff? Because, I mean, with the amount of derailments, it's just insane to
Right.
have that much hazardous material in one spot.
But isn't this interesting? This chart, I just kind of was amazed by it. So I'm just curious why. If the derailments have gone down, why have accidents with hazardous material gone up?
Now that is a good question worth pondering.
So, all right, should we go on to our next topic?
First, Carrie said that they didn't need to burn it, the hazardous material that they burned in East Palestine, because they set it all on fire right away.
That's a really good comment. Why did they burn that? They should have known, right?
Hazmat people should have been able to tell them, hey, you don't want to burn that. But they did not handle that the way they would normally handle a hazardous material situation.
Yeah, don't they normally just take it away and bury it somewhere or something? I don't know.
I don't know the procedures. This would have been a good thing to have Orion on for.
Yeah.
He's certified in that stuff. But it's so. Carrie also says it's so devastating to the people and the environment and the waterways. It made it worse, and that's when the animals started dying. So yeah, we did see a lot of chickens and cattle and stuff all start to die.
Yeah, I didn't pull up those clips, but yes, there were even journalists that went and just poked the water a little bit, and you'd see rainbows, which showed that there were chemicals in that water. Herbie is on. Hey, Herb.
Hey, Herb.
And so is Malaya. Hey, Malaya. Malaya says maybe we are transporting the same amount of hazardous material, but they are being targeted more. What's the agenda?
Now that is a good question worth pondering.
Sorry to interrupt you with that.
It's okay. But it's a good question. And I mean, I have seen that there are derailment like I'm losing my words and it's really driving me insane today.
That's okay.
But there are pieces of equipment that you can basically fit into a backpack that if you put it on the track of a train, it will derail the train. And it's really weird that that stuff is available and it keeps getting used.
Yeah, interesting. Very, very interesting. Well, more to come on that, I suppose.
Carrie also said chickens and foxes, if I recall, and the airplane crash with inspectors going to the site. Was that a coincidence?
That's right. They were going from, was it Arkansas to Ohio?
Something like that. Yeah, something.
And
down
the airplane crashed. Yep. There's a lot I forgot to add in here. You know, it hasn't even been that long. It's been not even 2 months.
Like it's been forever.
Right. It's been a couple of months since the Ohio one, and last week was the one in Maine. And it's amazing how much news happens that we forget about these things, and we should try to keep these at the forefront to make sure that, like, what's going on with the residents right now. I would love to know that. You know,
I wonder if that's being done on purpose, though.
Maybe. It's a pretty serious situation. And yeah, I would love to know what's going on with them. And maybe that's, maybe that's something we can try to find out and follow up on. So, All right. Any other comments?
I can't think of anything. And Carrie just says, I think 4 or 5 people died in that plane crash, and so much in the news, she says.
Yeah. That one's interesting because wasn't there a connection with the Clintons?
Yeah, there was something. I don't want to say
Oh
that too loud
gosh.
on.
Yeah. Yeah. And Malaya asked, what about the residents who can't afford to relocate? It's very sad.
I did see some videos where they were definitely helping each other out, like the residents in the area,
Mm-hmm.
um,
I
doing
heard
what
that
they could
too.
to
That
help everyone
one
out.
was helping their neighbor feed their livestock while they were evacuated. So it is very sad. It's nice they're helping each other. I do think they were offered not very much money from FEMA, um, but I think there were conditions behind that.
Hmm.
We could probably do a whole show on that. I would love to do a follow-up show, and
Yeah.
maybe we could do that. All right. Our next topic is about the leaks. So, just real quick, I'm going to show some of the images from the leaks. There was like, sorry, I've got Telegram up in the browser instead of in Telegram. But they have these maps with these war plans underneath that were leaked with maps, and this is related to the Russia-Ukraine conflict with the intelligence leaks that came out as to the U.S. and how they're helping Ukraine. I'm sure people have heard about it, but just in case folks haven't heard about it, pretty detailed plans laid out that were leaked.
Hmm.
And yeah, so what are your thoughts on this, Moxie? Do you have?
This whole situation is so weird.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so a 21-year-old, enlistment level 2 pay grade for the National Guard, somehow had all sorts of information available to him, which does not make sense in the least if you know anything about military rank or anything like that. Like, he was so low on the totem pole, like there's literally one rank underneath there. There's no reason that a 21-year-old should have had any of that information. I mean, he was in IT, but it all really just doesn't make sense. But my biggest question is, why are they focusing on the leaker and not the information that was leaked?
Right. That's a really good question. Yeah, this is what Moxie's talking about. They arrested a 21-year-old National Guardsman. And what's interesting about that is I had heard that there were like CIA documents in there as well. So not just
Mhm.
Army. And that the only people that would have access to top secret CIA documents would be the CIA or the DNI. And so the Army wouldn't have access to CIA related tech, intelligence.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of fishy things going on here.
It's really, really weird. It does not make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't. And let's see, I'm trying to figure out what yeah, also they don't even know how much was leaked.
And it was
Right.
available for weeks.
Yep, it was I think it was like 3 weeks or something like that.
Something like that. It was just an insane amount of time that nobody noticed that this was available. And it was available on Discord, which is popular with gamers. And it just doesn't make, or that's what the story is. I don't know exactly like, I don't know what all the facts are because there's just so much flying around about this, even a week later.
There's a lot of theories for sure.
But they've been trying to demonize the gaming community over all of this, which is awfully convenient, because everything that always comes back to when there's a shooting.
Yeah.
And they're going after, this is the big thing here too, is it all comes back to this Restrict Act where they want to control what happens online.
So I do know that's one of the theories. I'm not sure if I buy into any of the theories right now. I'm waiting to see what happens. One of the theories, so I don't, if anybody doesn't know what the Restrict Act is, that's like the Ban TikTok Act, but it actually has a lot more overreach than just banning TikTok. It gives too much power.
It's like the Patriot Act,
On
which violates
steroids.
our Fourth Amendment rights.
Yeah.
But for the internet.
Right. And I could see why people would theorize that this would be something that was planned in order to put that in place, and it very well could be. I'm just I'm not. I don't know. I'm waiting to learn about more information. I guess there's other theories. Like here is Jordan Sather asking if it's a psyop to regulate free speech on social media. So that is kind of what you were talking about there. And he's got a Substack on that. It is interesting theory. So the Substack is Jordan Sather, or is it Sather? Am I saying his last name wrong?
Your guess
So
is
it's jordansather.substack.com, and then you'll be able to find this article. I'm not sure that that's something that I agree with just yet. I have other suspicions too. I ask myself, was this leaked intentionally? I do think it was. The reason behind it though might be, I mean, it could be about regulating and controlling social media, but I also wonder if it was a psyop against Russia. Like maybe those aren't really the plans, you know? So I wonder that because we're in an information war,
absolutely.
And you can't tell me that something like that could be leaked by a 21-year-old on Discord. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, I just don't believe that story. That story is just crazy. So, Just Human also says the fact that the media are only interested in in the supposed leaker while demonstrating little, if any, interest in what was actually leaked is enough to question whether or not this whole episode is just another information operation on behalf of our intelligence community, intelligence community to push a specific narrative outcome that serves their interests over the American people's. The whole thing stinks. So I totally agree with that. So Malaya says, is he a pawn? Yeah. Oh, the 21-year-old I think you're talking about. Yeah, he might be a scapegoat for them. He could be a pawn. It'll be interesting to find out more. I don't know if we ever will.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a psyop, we won't find out. I mean, I don't think we will. Let's see. Oh, also, I do have a couple of videos. This leak makes us look pretty bad, even if it was planned and intentional.
미국 최고의 정보기관이 불법 스파이 활동을 우리나라와 같은
So this is South Korea, and they're saying they regret that the top U.S. intelligence agency had been illegally spying on its allies like their country. So out of these leaks, they found out, more than just what they're doing in Ukraine. They found out about where their spying efforts are.
같은 동맹국을 대상으로 자행해 온 것에 대해 깊은 유감을 표합니다. 명백한 진상.
And then he says, we strongly demand a thorough investigation and urge that similar incidents do not occur. And then one more clip about it being a controlled leak I'd like to play.
Larry Johnson joins us now. Larry, in the past 12 hours, the Washington Post has come out with a story that seems too fantastic to believe, that the leaker of the secured, top secret, no foreign documents prepared by and for the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and his team is in fact a 21-year-old Air National Guardsman from Fort Bragg or Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and that this was originally shared amongst a group of teenage gamers, of all things. Is this even remotely credible?
No, it's a lie. It's fabrication. The Washington Post, this first surfaced with a cat, Bellingcat. Bellingcat is a front for the British intelligence. That's where the story first surfaced. Washington Post then picks it up, and the Guardian then picks it up on the same day. So this is a coordinated media strategy. This is a disinformation campaign. The documents are real. I'm not saying that the documents are fabrications. They are not. But this cover story that's been manufactured to explain how these documents came to be produced, it just falls apart. It most simply falls apart based upon one document in that mix, which is listed as CIA Operations Center report, top secret. I worked in the CIA Operations Center. I helped prepare those reports. That's an internal CIA document. No one on a U.S. military base anywhere in the world will have access to that kind of document, for starters.
Who or what is spreading the misinformation? Is this CIA feeding garbage to their friends in the American and British media?
I put it above the CIA. This is elements connected to the Office of the Director of National Intelligence.
So that's kind of an interesting clip. That's where I heard that there were CIA documents mixed in there. So any other thoughts from you on that?
Carrie said that the leak revealed that Ukraine is losing big time, which definitely goes against what we're being told in the mainstream media.
That's a really good point, Carrie. Yeah. It's so hard to tell what's going on. I think there is propaganda spewing around on all sides, to be honest.
There is.
I don't think we little people know what's going on. But there's a lot of connecting the dots, though, and interesting analysis from people with experience. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Any other thoughts on Rumble?
No.
Okay.
Our media is lying about the casualties, Carrie also says.
Well, yeah, we get numbers from them. There's no other way to know what's going on there, but that's probably a good point too. So our next topic is going to be very short because there was breaking news today. I was going to delve in a little bit, but basically Dominion Voting Systems was suing Fox News for over $1 billion because Fox talked about the Dominion voting machines after the 2020 election. And, a lot of these issues actually happened. But let me just share this. there was breaking news today that Fox did a settlement with Dominion for a lot of money, $787 million, to settle the defamation lawsuit. So I'm very disappointed in Fox because the discovery on this would have been incredible,
It would have.
because it could have been proven what's going on with these Dominion voting machines. There are so many state legislative hearings that happened with various witnesses that signed affidavits. The machines, connected to the internet, they had modems in them. They promised the states, they did not. There's so much going on there. So I'm very disappointed in Fox News. They just gave in. They didn't want to have to put their people up on the stand. And our country is actually, when you think about it, so much more important than that. What are your thoughts, Moxie?
I think there's something bigger than we even know that Fox is worried about coming out.
Well,
Or-
really? What are you
I
thinking?
wonder, I don't know. It just feels weird that something so big and so important they would have just backed off on.
Right?
There has to be something else going on that we don't know about. I'm wondering if they were worried that the way it would go in court, depending on who the judge was going to be, if they were going to lose even worse than what they would right now. I don't know. Depending on where I didn't dig too far into this one. Because today was just a busy news day. Busy news day. And I was trying to get my thoughts together, and I didn't get a chance to go back to it the way I wanted to. And I just feel like there's something more that could have happened that they were afraid of.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I didn't even think about that. I just thought because they were going to call several people to the stand, and I just assumed they didn't want these big headliners being a part of a circus. But yeah, I'm very disappointed. I don't know what's going on over there at Fox News. It's a little crazy. So that's it. That's it for Fox News. Okay, our next one is we do have some interesting things to share about China. So back in September, I'm just going to show, I posted this back in September, asking the question, why in the heck does China need police outposts throughout the world? So apparently they have police outposts throughout the world. And also posted that they have one in New York City. And so the question is, why would we allow a foreign country to have military occupation in our country?
Now that is a good question worth pondering.
Right? And they said it was to combat the growing issue of fraud and telecommunications fraud by Chinese nationals. And then just recently, so this was back in September 30th. And just recently, the United States, so we had this press conference with the DOJ, and they announced that they arrested 2 for setting up Chinese secret police stations. And the Chinese are trying to say, well, people need to be able to renew their driver's license and stuff like that. I'm like, what the heck? So, yeah, I think I just have one more thing to share. So Absolute 1776 said, this is what slow disclosure looks like. This is setting the public up to accept the fact that Chinese spies operate within the United States. He said, remember what Ray said about the CCP and these police stations back in November as well, that they represent our biggest threat to national security. Moxie, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I was just reading in the chat, and Carrie just said the exact same thing I was going to come up with, which was, or she says, I recall the Chinese were also looking to get their spies back who defected. So they're also here trying to get their spies and take them back home. Which is also part of, you know, setting
That's
up
interesting.
shop and everything. That's a good excuse to be over here.
Malaya is shocked. Got the eyes.
Shifty eyes.
It's like,
but gosh, I hope I don't get turned into a GIF, because that would be awful. But yeah, they're definitely, there's no reason to have Chinese cop shops here.
yeah, I was shocked back in September. I'm like, why would we ever allow a foreign country to have police outposts?
Why can't our cops take care of that? And if they're over here, shouldn't they have American driver's licenses if they need to be driving?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I also read about was apparently around the world they have dozens and dozens of police outposts in many, many countries. So we're not the only one, but they happen to have one in New York here. So
yeah, I heard there was some in Canada that were just shut down not too long ago too.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if they saw this story back in September and then maybe investigated the story that came out and decided to do something about it. It's like, I wonder how long it's been in place.
Yeah.
I don't know. I do. I wonder how long it's been out there. All right. Any other comments on China and the New York police outpost?
Carrie says, because commies run New York and it's completely different than embassies, these have to be illegal.
Absolutely. It's not an embassy at all. Not at all.
This is just weird.
Yeah. All right. Our next topic is Elon had an interview yesterday on Tucker Carlson. He had some interesting things to talk about. He talked about AI. The Chat GPT and the Open AI, and how dangerous that is. And he also talked about buying Twitter, and like how much staff he laid off or they quit.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it would be cool to show a couple of those quick clips and chat about those. I've got one around the AI, and then what his future plans might be with that, and then we'll delve into his Twitter purchase. All right, so I'm just going to queue up the video to the right spot here. 6:55. These are long videos, so I didn't want to have to. Let me make it bigger. All right, let's listen to this first clip.
and then he called me a speciesist.
Did he use that term?
Yes, and there were witnesses. I wasn't the only one there when he called me a speciesist, and so I was like, okay, that's it. Yes, I'm a speciesist. Okay, you got me. What are you? Yeah, I'm fully a speciesist. Busted.
So I should have set this up a little better. Basically, he was meeting with Google because he had some concerns around the safety of AI, and they were talking about that. He was talking about how dangerous it can become and what kind of safeguards are in place. And at Google, they called him a speciesist, which was like a human species, like he's for the human species. That's what he means by that.
I was having trouble hearing, and I'm like, why is this not making sense in my head?
I'm glad I repeated it then. Sorry about that, Moxie. Yeah, I thought that was meeting that that was interesting that he had that meeting with Google. One of the comparisons he gave to, because he was talking about the dangers of AI, is he was comparing humans to animals. If you look at the human intelligence, it far exceeds that of animals. I mean, look what we've done in the world. And he said, if you can think about AI as being super intelligent and we're like the animals, what could happen there? So he really gave some interesting analogies there. So yeah. Any other thoughts on that before I get to?
It's just interesting to me that he has been wanting to put chips in our brains, and then he was talking about AI, and now all of a sudden he wants to put a stop to AI.
So he didn't say he wanted to stop it. And I agree. I'm not for the whole Neuralink thing. So it's like he talks about one thing on one side and then the other thing on the other side. And I know when he talks about Neuralink, he's thinking about ways that, like, medical miracle type stuff. But I would never put a chip in my brain or in my body for any. If I've got a problem, a health problem, I'll let it be. You know, Either God made my body to fight that or he didn't, and I would not put a chip in for that. So that's a really good point, Moxie. Um, AI can be used for good. It can also be used for bad. We've got good and bad people in the world. So for Google to call him a speciesist is just tells me, like, what does Google think of humans? I mean, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, and Carrie says they want to replace humans with AI ultimately. I think the singularity issue is the problem. The fact that AI advances itself and they don't know how or why they value AI over humans.
Right. And I didn't pull up that clip, but I think it was the CEO of Microsoft. He was asked, he was saying that he doesn't really know what the AI chat GPT is capable of, but still released it to the masses anyway. And I should have pulled that up because that was really interesting. And the whole chat GPT came out of Open API, which Elon actually helped create. He went after he met with Google. So he says this in the interview that the Google AI was closed source. So that means nobody could see what the source code was from a programming standpoint. And it was also for profit. And so he wanted to do the opposite after they called him a speciesist. So he created Open API, which is open source so that there's transparency so people can call out dangers, and not for profit. But he said he dropped the ball, and they kind of took it over. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you can drop the ball on something so critical, but he did. He admitted that.
He is a very, very busy person.
He has many businesses, yeah. Malaya talks about the jobs that will be lost because of AI, and I agree, but people also like said that with computers. If you think about it,
Yeah.
like when computers were coming, people were saying computers are going to replace people. And when self checkout came at the grocery store, that's going to replace the job. So I think I think from a job standpoint, the marketplace adjusts for that. But it is true, Malaya, especially writers' jobs to start. Um, it will be interesting to see what happens there. But I've got another clip where he talks about the future. So not only did Google, uh, talk about having closed AI and obviously not caring that much about humans and they're for profit. Open API also changed to for profit and is now closed source. So he was asked, would he want to start another API or AI? I don't know why I said API. I'm in work mode, I guess, when I talk about technology. All right, open API. So let's see what he says about that for the future.
Arena.
So it seems like the world needs a third option.
Yes. So I think I will create a third option, although starting very late in the game, of course.
Can it be done?
I don't know. I think we'll see. It's definitely starting late, but I'll try to create a third option, and that third option hopefully does more good than harm. Like the intention with OpenAI was obviously to do good, but it's not clear whether it's actually doing good or whether it's. I can't tell at this point, except that I'm worried about the fact that it's being trained to be politically correct, which is simply another way of being saying untruthful things.
Yes.
So that's a bad sign. There's certainly a path to AI dystopia is to train an AI to be deceptive. So yeah, I'm going to start something which I know you call truth GPT or a maximum truth-seeking AI that tries to understand the nature of the universe. And I think.
Yeah, so interesting that he would call it Truth GPT. Yeah, do you have any thoughts on that, Moxie?
Carrie brought up something in the chat that did trigger something for me. She brought up the robot dogs that they were going to use in San Francisco. The robo dogs on the street enforcing the law. Remember in San Francisco they were going to arm the robo dogs, but pushback was so great that they reversed that decision.
That's right. I forgot about that. I remember that.
Years ago, there was an episode of Black Mirror. I don't know if you've watched it, but it's on Netflix. And there's an episode where there are robot dogs that have taken over the entire. I don't know how big the world is in this. It's like post-apocalyptic sort of thing, and these robot dogs just rule the entire area. It's terrifying. You ever want to be creeped out, watch Black Mirror.
Yeah. And we have something to show. Robot dogs are actually in use somewhere, and we'll show you in a little bit. That is a really, really cool point there. Yeah, so he wants to create yet a third. You know what would be super cool? So I think AI will be able to do a lot of good things, to be honest. And so I'm not really against AI specifically because I think it can be helpful. For instance, one of the companies I used to work at is a software company that is for education. And one of the things we built was a predictable, will kids be able to graduate from high school? And we built, a machine learning around that. And so from 8th grade through 12th grade, each year it would get a lot of information, indicators, so that the teachers could talk to the parents and say, hey, they're slipping a little bit. They're, they might be at a little, like, let's call it a yellow risk, maybe not a red flag, but a yellow flag that, hey, your child is on the track to not graduate. Let's fix that now. So you could get early indicators based on machine learning. So I think there are a lot of good things that could come out of it, and help for people who are writing articles, maybe throwing it in there and having it check the grammar, or time savers, efficiencies, making people more productive. So I do see benefits, but yeah, having yet a third one. Oh, this was going to be my point. My whole point was for Elon. If he did build a third one and it was open source, which then everybody can see the source, but if that AI could learn about warning signs from other AIs and learn how they work to combat the bad actors, that would be super cool. It's kind of like, how people hack computers and do viruses, and then you've got your anti-malware and virus protection, kind of like that. If we could have an AI that was an AI protector, that would be super cool. Let's see what Malaya says. I'm sad to hear about the robot dogs. I was happy to see, here, I'll put on here too. I was happy to see sweet fur babies not being on the front lines. One day we will look back and see how cruel and archaic that was. That is so true. Yeah, sad to hear about the robot dogs, but honestly, replacing dogs having to be on the front lines is super cool, right? So there are benefits to some of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It will, all this is popcorn worthy. We'll see how things
Mm-hmm.
we'll see how things turn out. Any other thoughts from you, Moxie, or any other?
Carrie
Rumble?
says they say you can write a book in a day. I don't know. It seems like the life process, the human experience will be thwarted. It also replaces the police.
I agree with that. I think if you're going to write, you should write, and you shouldn't use AI to write for you. But it might help you come up with an outline, or it might help give you ideas. I don't know.
And AI could be good or bad. I mean, AI itself is not good or bad inherently. Like, it's all who's behind it and who
It's
has
who programs
control
it.
over
Yep, it absolutely is. Well, like Elon said in that clip, the current Chat GPT appears to be politically correct. Well, that had to be programmed to be that way.
It did.
So, well, the second kind of part of his interview yesterday was talking about him buying Twitter. And, Tucker asked him if it was a smart purchase. And instead of saying what Elon's comment was on that, I'll just go ahead and play it. It's kind of funny. And his ending statement on that is really interesting.
But some things are priceless, and so whether I lose money or not, that is a secondary issue compared to ensuring the strength of democracy, and free speech is the bedrock of a functioning democracy.
Yes.
Okay, so I guess I didn't start it where he was laughing, saying it wasn't a financial smart move. He said he's valued the company at half of what it was valued previously. So I guess the clip started at the comment I really liked, which is some things are priceless. So what are your thoughts on Elon buying Twitter, Moxie?
He, back a few months, actually posted something kind of funny on Twitter, and I wish I had thought about this earlier. But he I don't remember how he worded it, but it was kind of funny that he just said, I bought this thing that was really expensive, and it ended up still being worth it for the for free speech. But it was just worded really funny the way he did it. I can't remember.
Yeah. And he did say that he did not make a financially wise investment, pretty much. Before I continue with that comment, Carrie put a good comment too about the robo dogs. So even though they could replace real dogs on the front lines, another bad side of that is they can assist them in defunding the police. So yeah, there could be good and bad with some of the stuff. He said it wasn't financially smart, but some things are priceless. And Elon is confusing to me. I hate half of the things he says and love half of the other. Like, I am not for Neuralink. I'm not for self-driving cars. I could care less if people go to Mars, to be honest with you. It's like, but then around the free speech stuff, it's like, yes, he's very confusing.
I think that Elon is out for Elon, and he's
Do
not
you?
necessarily on either side.
Yeah, I don't think he's on any side either. So do you think he's being dishonest about his free speech efforts?
I don't.
Okay.
I think that Elon is an inventor. Elon, it makes me think of the movie Robots, which is a kid's movie, and I absolutely love it. But in that movie, they say, see a need, fill a need.
Yep.
And I think that's a
Yep.
lot of what Elon does, is he sees a need, he fills it.
Yeah, I used to actually talk with my parents about that. Find a need and fill it. We always talked about that. They always encouraged like entrepreneurship with us. Yeah, I think he's entrepreneurial, but honestly, like, buying Twitter shows me that he wasn't in that one for the money.
He absolutely was not. I mean, he paid way more than the stock price was worth.
Right.
And he took a hit. Like, at first he's like, okay, I'm gonna pay this insane amount, and Twitter declined. And then he decided he was going to back out, and then Twitter was going to force him to pay that price.
Well, not only that, the investors were upset with Twitter for saying, hey, you're going to make us lose some money here. So the Twitter got pressure. They kind of got pressure to have to look at his offer seriously. But yes, then when they said no, he backed out. And then they're like, wait, we still want to do it. And now you signed something saying you would buy it. It was that whole thing was interesting, very entertaining. I didn't think it was going to go through, to be honest with you. I thought he was just fluffing his feathers.
Well, there was a court case that was supposed to happen like right before or right after he had decided that he was going to purchase it. Like, there was supposed to be a court case, and it was supposed to start in September last year. Then it got pushed back to October.
Yeah.
But then he ended up purchasing Twitter instead of going to the court stuff. It was just really weird how all of that went down, but it played out with him ultimately ending up owning Twitter.
Yeah, and then he was asked about firing all the staff there. And honestly, I get why he did, because so he said that not everybody was laid off. There were a lot of people who quit, but they're at 20% of the staff they had previously. And honestly, when I think about Twitter and how non-complex of a product that is, and I work in software, I never got why they would need that many people working for that company. And that's kind of what Elon said. He said most of them were activists. So, you know, I totally get why he would let that many people go. You can be efficient with fewer people.
Yeah, I mean, there's been no change in how Twitter works
Right.
after he
Oh,
let
that,
go
yeah, that was the other thing.
80% of Twitter staff.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen very little change in the way that Twitter actually runs. I mean, it goes down every once in a while, but what doesn't?
Well, it did before.
Exactly. And I mean, literally nothing's changed except
He
for
said it
the
took them
algorithm might be a little bit better.
yeah, he said it took them a year to add an edit button. And it's like a year, seriously? Like, yeah. They didn't add any enhancements at all. So he asked, how did it get so overstaffed? What are they doing? And because we didn't see a lot of big features. I mean, look at all the features Elon has added since he took over, and he's only had it since October. So he added the whole Twitter Blue thing, and yeah, it's just interesting. He got rid of a lot of the algorithms, which I can't even imagine how much work that was. Going through all of that code and figuring out where the nefarious code is that's censoring people. I can't even imagine how difficult that was probably a huge challenge for them.
And they're
So,
still finding stuff in there.
oh yeah, I'm sure they are. Who knows how many millions of lines of code they have. Or should I say billions? Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting. Another interesting thing he talked about was how people are so attracted to negative news. And we can get a lot of our news on social media now because you can't even trust the mainstream media. And yeah. So he said it's like almost like some people wake up and say, "What's the worst thing that happened today?" It's so true. I don't know if it's something within our adrenaline or our something that, oh man, I don't know who it was, if it was Kate Awakening or MJ Truth that had, oh shoot, I wish I had that meme where it shows these stick people and talking about how the news started, and the news starts like saying, hey, this happened, and people are like, oh wow, but then they get bored with all the good news, and they're going and they're attracted to all the crazy, scary, dramatic news, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's such a funny meme. I have to find it and post it. But yeah, so that pretty much covers what Elon's first interview was. It'll be interesting to see what he talked about tonight. In other news, we're a little bit over an hour, but I think it will be interesting to talk about this breaking news that happened today. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. There was a parking ramp in Manhattan that collapsed. Thank you, Vuja Day, for alerting me in our channel on Telegram. I'm going to play this video real quick. It's not that long.
With no sound.
And it's kind of choppy, so never mind that. But basically, one person was killed and multiple injured in New York City parking garage collapse. And, oh, this is that same video. And what's interesting is I posted earlier about this picture here. So look at how jammed those cars are together, like sardines, So it's like, this is an old building. You can tell it's super old. So I don't know if this was a valet service that put those cars up there or what this is, but basically they should have known that this structure couldn't support cars like that because it wasn't made for cars being on top of each other like that. I don't know. But what I really wanted to show, whoopsie, not that one. This. So remember we talked about the dogs, the dog robots?
Mm-hmm.
So Vujade also posted this picture. A DigiDog was used in the garage after the collapse. So they have them already in New York City.
That's interesting.
Right? So I thought that was pretty interesting. Any other thoughts on that news out of New York?
So I was talking with Vujade
Mm-hmm.
before we came in live and everything, and I'm trying to figure out why they would park the cars like that. It does not make sense to me at all because one, there's weight restrictions on those things for a reason, and anyone who's using those parking lots would know about that. If it was a
Right.
valid situation, like how do you get your cars out if somebody comes to get their car early? Like if they have like
I don't know how they do that.
personal
Who knows
emergency
what
or
was
something
going
that they
on
have
in
to
their
go
heads?
home, like how are they planning to get those cars out? Like it doesn't make sense. And is this an infrastructure problem? Because tax dollars go towards infrastructure all the time.
Well, didn't
Is
they
this
have a big infrastructure bill recently?
yeah, like are they trying to up the amount of money that they're getting for infrastructure? I mean, was that last year or the year before that there was a bridge collapse in DC the day that Biden was supposed to go and give a speech about infrastructure?
That is
Like,
so true.
how convenient.
The same day. Yep.
Like not even like the day before or a week before. No, the same day.
Right. Yeah, that was super curious. I totally remember that because he was out there touting the infrastructure bill. And it just so happened that a bridge collapsed that day. Yeah, this parking lot collapse it's sad because people actually died. So not to laugh, because I did laugh earlier just about other things, but it is sad that people died. And that was some breaking news that I saw right when I got off of work tonight. Let's see. Oh, I'm not going to play that. Oh, here. I do want to show this. This is what also happened recently. So we were talking about Elon, and actually Malaya had a comment. Oh, a year for an edit button. She said, "Do you know how many features I've built and released in a year at my job?" So she's a business analyst, and yeah, she works with developers directly, and software engineers.
Mhm.
It's so true. Like you would have been fired, Malaya. So anyway, so this next news, Elon, so he recently marked PBS as a government sponsored government sponsored media, and then he changed it to government, what was it, government funded, after they complained about it, instead of government sponsored. So anyway, he did the same thing for this company in Canada, which is the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. And so he gave them the label, and they went and complained, and they're like, we're not entirely government funded. We're only funded 70% by the government. So what did Elon do? He responded to them, and he updated their Twitter page, and he changed it from government funded media to 69% government funded media. You know what I love? So you know what I love? Whether you love Elon or hate him, he is exposing the truth out there for people, which is really cool. I think we need to know, if there are media companies out there getting funding from the government, people should know that. So, yeah.
Is that a
Um,
screenshot?
yep,
Or is that the...
it's a screenshot.
I was going to say, did you see what was trending over there?
No, what's trending? Epstein? Is that what you're talking about?
And the big lie underneath.
And the big
there.
lie. Yeah. So, yeah, and we were talking about this. This is probably related to the Dominion thing and the Fox thing. And because Fox decided to settle, everybody's going to say, see, there's no election thing. And Fox, admits that there was no election problems in 2020. But honestly, there were so many problems. Trump won that election. It's so obvious. But Epstein is kind of interesting. I wonder why that's trending.
And then Rachel.
Should we look? Oh yeah, I like the memes. Memes are cool. Oh, maybe the latest, huh? Instead of the top.
Ooh.
JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon to be deposed in the Epstein lawsuit. That's really interesting. That's interesting news.
That is.
That is. Gates funds millions to NGO claiming kids born sexual 10-year-olds should learn about commercial sex work. What? I think there's more news breaking right now.
There is. There seems to be.
I did a post on Telegram. So first, before I post that, there was a news that these Ohio officers won't be charged in the shooting of Jayland Walker. And I know you have a lot to say about this one. So this was in Ohio. And then I posted on Telegram, thanks to a hat tip from Moxie giving me this info. Let me cancel this. Basically, they're starting up. And I put a note on there that they're, warming up for riot season. So just said, folks are getting warmed up for riot season. The media is too big for that one. But yeah. So what do you got on this, Moxie?
So this happened last year in June, towards the end of June, and a 25-year-old kid, they shot him dozens of times, killing him after a car chase and a foot chase. And they tried, he was wearing, excuse me, a ski mask, of all things, when he got out of the car, and fired gunshots from his car, and then got out and ran. And they tried to use tasers to take him down. That didn't work. But then he made a motion that the officers interpreted as threatening, so they ended up shooting him. They ended up shooting him like 48 times or 46 times, something like that. But they've declined, or the grand jury decided not to indict any of the officers, saying that they were okay to use the lethal force. They ended up, the 8 police officers ended up firing a total of 94 shots. Within 6.7 seconds, according to the investigation.
Wow.
That's just an insane amount. Okay, it was 46. 46 shots that hit him.
That's still a lot.
That is a lot. But if you think about it, someone who, someone who's working on that kind of adrenaline that you would have in a police chase may not be taken down by, shots that are not lethal.
There is something to be said for superhuman adrenaline, that's for sure. People in extreme situations do get superhuman adrenaline. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
That's okay. But it's just, I can't believe that it's riot season again already.
I don't understand. Here's what I don't understand. And actually, I think I probably do understand. But why do people go out? I totally get peaceful protests. I'm all for that. But why do people? Okay. If you wanted your voice heard, you wouldn't have a bunch of people out causing destruction and rioting. If you really wanted to make a difference, you wouldn't even allow that, to be honest. So this is why I say I already know the answer to that. So it's almost as if, oh man, it's almost as if, and sometimes it's been proven that these folks that go out to cause damage, not the peaceful protesters, because there are peaceful protesters in situations like this, but are paid to do so. And the thing of it is I don't get why people protest before they learn the facts. So it's like, can you wait till the facts come out and then protest if you find out that there was really a problem there? Because otherwise, everything's always protested. And so things that actually matter get watered down and nobody pays attention to it. It's kind of like the racism thing, like calling everyone a racist means that you can't identify the true racists and call them out. It's the same thing. It's just watered down. So,
and after a while, the term just loses any meaning.
Well, that's the point. Yeah. So I don't know. But we'll see what happens this summer. I mean, now the weather's warming up. We'll see if, there are people that go out and cause destruction. 2020 was horrible when that happened. It happened here I'm not in Minneapolis, but I'm in a suburb of Minneapolis. So not that far, to be honest.
That's a bit close for comfort.
Yeah, way too close for comfort. So, well, I think that was our last topic. Was there any other breaking news you wanted to talk about? Or any other comments?
I can't think of anything, and my brain is kind of fried right now.
I know we went way over, but you know what? Thank you, everybody who joined us tonight. It was so Malaya. I did put Malaya's comment out while you were talking, but she had an idea of do a trending topics podcast. That would be kind of fun.
That would be fun.
Yeah, I think we should do that sometime. And yeah, with that, thank you, Moxie. And thank you everybody who joined us. If you liked it, I hope you hit the like button and follow us on Rumble or YouTube and on Twitter. And yeah, so have a good night. Any closing thoughts from you, Moxie?
No, thanks for joining us, everybody. Sorry it went so long, but we had a lot to cover.
We did have a lot to cover.
There was so much.
It was. All right. Well, good night.
Bye.
I can see clear.